U.S. President Donald Trump, pursuing closer ties with Saudi Arabia, is raising questions over whether Canada will follow suit.
We officially designated the kingdom yesterday as the major non-NATO ally. That's a big deal.
Saudi Arabian Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman's warm welcome to the White House this week has some analysts arguing Canada would benefit from closer ties with the kingdom. For more on the future of the Canada-Saudi relationship, we're joined by Arif Lalani, a former Canadian ambassador to Jordan, Iraq, Afghanistan, and the United Arab Emirates. Thank you so much for being here this morning.
Pleasure.
All right, so the last time the Crown Prince was in Washington was during Trump's first term 7 years ago. So what's driving this U.S. and Saudi Arabia closer together right now?
I think it's just a natural progression of the relationship. You know, the two countries have been allies for a long time, but more importantly, President Trump and Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, MBS as he's known, have gotten along for quite some time. It was President Trump's first trip overseas in his first term, and he's already visited in his second term. So I think this is a natural progression between these two leaders. But it also reflects, you know, the changing circumstances in the world. The geopolitical, economic, demographic weight of the world has really shifted to Asia, or what I call Eurasia, and that includes the Gulf states. So I think you're just seeing the reality of today's world.
Well, earlier this week, and in the clip that we just showed, Trump named Saudi Arabia as a major non-NATO ally. So how does that affect Canada's relationship with the Saudis?
Well, look, that's a designation largely in the U.S., which allows them to export certain technologies and weapons and to transfer technology that they could only do with NATO allies. And so this is a designation that allows us to do that. Canada doesn't quite have the same designation, but you know, I think what it means is that Canada has a choice to make. In today's world, Canada needs to diversify, and that means it has to diversify beyond Europe. And that means they have to look at the Gulf. The Prime Minister's just been in the UAE. I think that was the right decision. And the Prime Minister is going to the G20 summit today, where Saudi Arabia is a member. So certainly there's going to be some engagement on the sidelines. But Canada needs to engage with countries like Saudi Arabia, like the UAE, if it's going to succeed in this new world.
And that kind of leads into my next question, because the federal budget, of course, includes measures aimed at attracting new foreign investment into Canada. So by 2030, Canada is hoping to bring in $1 trillion in new investments. So what role could Saudi Arabia play in achieving that goal?
Well, similar to the UAE, Saudi Arabia has large sovereign wealth funds which invest around the world. So I think Saudi Arabia would be open to investing in some of these large infrastructure funds. But I think for that to happen in a significant way, the first step has to be engagement, which is what we've just seen happen in the UAE, and if it follows in Saudi Arabia, you could see Saudi Arabia investing in infrastructure, in technology, in AI, and other areas of the Canadian economy.
Well, not everyone is in favor of this. Some groups are actually warning against deepening ties with Saudi Arabia due to the country's human rights record. Back in 2018, Canada sanctioned Saudi nationals after the killing of Washington Post journalist Jamal Khashoggi. The CIA says the Crown Prince ordered his murder. So how can Canada balance our human rights concerns with our trade needs?
Well, Canada has to do both. I think Canada is absolutely right to raise its concerns with countries where we have concerns. But, you know, Canadians also need to be mindful that Canada has dealt with countries, continues to deal with countries where we don't always agree on their human rights record. And that includes Western countries. We haven't always agreed with what the UK has done. We certainly don't always agree with what the US does on human rights. But it doesn't mean that it's an all or nothing and we stop talking. I think the way to be heard is to engage. So in today's world, you know, it's not a world where Canada can sit on the sidelines. When we had a world where alliances and the Cold War were in effect, it was kind of easy. You put on the team's jersey and you could sit on the sidelines and let the others play. Canada can no longer sit on the sidelines.
Yeah, those days.
It's got to engage countries.
Yeah,
right?
Those days are over. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to speak to us this morning on Your Morning. Once again, that's Arif Lalani, former Canadian ambassador to Jordan, Iraq, Afghanistan, and the United Arab Emirates. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
If you like that video, make sure to subscribe to the Your Morning YouTube feed, where you can find all kinds of new content posted every weekday morning.